The National Football League is dramatically ramping up its efforts to get all of its players, coaches, staff, personnel of all 32 teams vaccinated before this upcoming season begins. Since there's a vaccine out now and they want to make sure the season is not derailed. Come from Politico, let's talk about the details of this. Multiple news organizations reported on Thursday that the NFL is sent on a memo to its 32 teams that any game postponed due to the coronavirus will not be granted time to be rescheduled outside of the designated 18-week season. And teams affected by an outbreak will be forced to forfeit if the calendar does not line up. And they went on to say the burden of any financial fallout resulting from a game affected by a team COVID outbreak will also fall on that respective team, according to the memo. Now, at least the way I took that was the burden being, these teams, venue for a home game in the NFL, you make a lot of money. Ticket sales, concession sales, just people doing everything they can to feed that. So they would also be responsible for the loss of that revenue as well, because they're not gonna reschedule your game, bro. Now, last year, there was no games that were ultimately canceled, but a number of the contests had to be reshuffled, as we were talking about now. This is what will not happen, such as an October Tennessee Titans Buffalo Bills game that became the league's second Tuesday night matchup since 1946. For those non-football fans, Tuesday night games do not usually happen in the NFL, but they had to find some way. So if they can't get the scheduling to reschedule something because of a COVID outbreak, maybe because a trainer in the training room wasn't vaccinated and passed it to a player, then passed it to another coach, and now you got an outbreak going on, these things are not gonna be absorbed by the NFL. Before we get to some of the discussion about this and also some of the players that are pushing back on it, one more point about this. The league said it will not mandate vaccinations. So before we get into the thoughts about, they're mandating the vaccinations, the league said it will not mandate vaccinations among players, coaches, or NFL staff, but it is imposing additional restrictions on unvaccinated players compared with those who are inoculated. So those include undergoing additional surveillance testing, mandatory mask wearing and social distancing from others in team facilities, as well as longer quarantine periods in the case of a positive COVID-19 test or close contact with someone who also tests positive. Now, by the way, so that sounds like not many things will change. So if you're not vaccinated, you just have to follow those protocols that we were following before we had a vaccine on the market. And I don't really know how closely the people who are unvaccinated would really follow those anyway. So the outcry that's coming from this, I'm not really sure if it's really gonna mean much. But I'm opening up the floor now to you guys to what you think about just this NFL policy. Are they still the no fun league?
Well, there are a couple of aspects to what you've just described, which we were just talking about. One of which is, hey, we're not mandating the vaccine, but if you don't get the vaccine, you can't do all of these things with the rest of the team. I mean, that's exactly what we're speaking of in terms of the rest of society. So you make access to certain activities, you make life within an NFL franchise contingent on you getting a normal life anyway, contingent on you getting a vaccine. The other thing, and clearly the reason this is happening is the first point you made, which is there's so much money in the NFL. I mean, none of these teams want to be missing out on the sick money that's associated with football. And certainly none of them want to be responsible on the hook in any kind of legal way for losses of that sick money on the part of municipalities who suffer losses because the team can't play. This is all about money. And for that reason, I think you're gonna see a lot of NFL players step up.
Yeah, I mean, my only question, I don't trust Roger Goodell for a moment. I don't know much about the NFL, but I know that man is trash through and through. So honestly, I take back what I just said before about vaccine passports. No, look, it is good they're implementing incentives, but I do think it's interesting that, and this is something we need to talk about, there are breakthrough infections. That is happening. Even if you are vaccinated, there's gonna be breakthrough infections. There will guaranteed be breakthrough infections in the NFL during this season for fully vaccinated players. That will happen. So then what, right? And it seems like the NFL is just shirking their own responsibility and saying they're going to squarely blame. I mean, it's a great tactic. I mean, Goodell is nothing if not sort of frugal. But he's basically saying it's on the teams. They're gonna have to forfeit. I'm not gonna take the loss if I'm hearing that correctly, which is a little bit unfair considering the chances that someone will get COVID are pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, it just may happen. So really fast, we're really short on time, but I do want to get to at least, well, we'll go to both players that have been having issues, at least that have been publicly having issues with it. DeAndre Hopkins of the Cardinals and also Cole Beasley of the Bills have both been tweeting about this. Now, DeAndre Hopkins, in a since deleted tweet, he did delete this tweet, but it was out for a minute. He said, "Never thought I would say this, but being put in a position to hurt my team because I don't want to partake in the vaccine is making me question my future in the NFL." So, which made many people go, so retirement, and all those types of things, is that what he means by questioning his future? Now, by the way, last year, there was, in all the sports, there was players who could decide to sit out even though they had their shortened, truncated or disjointed seasons if they didn't want to participate because it's a dangerous situation. So you can do the same thing, you really can. Doesn't mean retirement, but it could mean you want to sit out until this is all taken care of. That's up to you. And also after he got pushed back, he then deleted that tweet as I said, and then tweeted this quick tweet that's probably about the same idea, freedom? Okay. Whichever one responded to it, yes, you do have that. So really quickly, Cole Beasley also was responded to a Michael Irvin, who Hall of Famer, former wide receiver Michael Irvin. He apparently said, if you're unvaccinated, this is what Irvin said, that means you don't want to win badly enough. To which Cole Beasley responded to, that's not what that means. You can be vaccinated and not do all the right things football-wise and be at your best. All it means is players are gonna be out there with COVID and we won't know because they only get tested once a week so the NFL can make their money. I was a little confused as to what his point was there. Because yes, the NFL is gonna try and make their money, but I don't know where that lands with you being on anti-vax over that, if you decide not to go with the system that'll help.
Yeah, he was kind of, the thing about Twitter is oftentimes there are a couple of thoughts that are thrown together maybe in a single tweet. I think in that case, it's very hard to square it. I mean, he's right, of course, about the money. We just talked about it. I think that, look, this is a personal choice, but I think in the case of the NFL, the pressure is immense, but so is the money. And in fact, the monetary pressure may be the greatest part of it. So it's very, very hard to walk away from this stuff. I'd be very surprised if these guys don't come to the party and get a vaccine.
Yeah, or the easy thing is these two won't get vaccinated and they'll go through the other protocols that they have to go through.
Or they will get COVID and being unvaccinated potentially suffer grave consequences.
Well, and I think this is the other thing is their teams would give up. I mean, just on the NFL point, their teams would give up a lot if they got it. I mean, my God, look at these guys, DeAndre Hopkins and Cole Beasley. Those are two, integral parts of each team.
Yeah, and look, again, I'm not saying there won't be breakthrough vaccinations, but I'm just saying like this takes strong people down. This doesn't matter. It does not discriminate. And so I hope, fingers crossed, if these two gentlemen continue to not want to get vaccinated, Godspeed, but it could get very, very ugly. I don't think we're out of this.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's definitely not gonna help us.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.